Hello, everybody. I'm Badr Al-Ajaji, interviewing Mr. Nicholas Claussen. He was born in Santa Rosa. He is the assistant crop technician in California State University Chico Farm. Good evening, Mr. Nicholas.
How you doing?
What waste are generated on the farm?
Animal waste, crop waste, and pesticide waste.
What is done with the waste?
Our animal waste is composted. Students collect it, or it is collected mechanically, and then taken over to the compost area, and over a 60-day period is composted back into the soil along with other natural organic components, and then that compost is spread into the fields and used back in organic matter building.
Mm-hmm. So, are there ways that the waste can be recycled for the benefit of the farm?
Yeah, our crop waste, for example, we take that and we turn that back into the soil, whether it's plow it under, till it under, disc it in, and that is kind of its own natural composting system, and that creates what is commonly known as green manure and fertilizes your soil very nicely.
Mm-hmm. So, a question about the crops. How does a farmer choose crops and variety of crops to grow?
First thing to be considered is the region you're in. Climate is the #1 factor. If a crop requires 80-degree weather, no frost, you gotta consider that. So right there, usually you can get a list, depending on the region you're in, of what crops are natural or are normally grown there, and that's usually a good guidance. Next thing to consider would be the type of farming you want to do. If you want to be the type of farmer that works 3 weeks out of the year, and the rest of the year the crop's in the ground and minimal work is needed, then you can, and that's typically rice farming. If you want to be an orchard guy, you got to be ready to plant your orchard and not really see any profits for a couple of years. Naturally, an orchard doesn't benefit, or there is no net profit for anywhere from 3 to 5 years, depending on the crop there. So that's another area in which there's some personal choices, there's some environmental factors to consider, and then the last to consider is, what is your soil? What does your soil allow you to do? What will your soil give you with the crop that you put in its ground?
So basically, you just said that depends on the climate and the weather, and if there's a variety of choices, the farmer can choose how he want to farm or the way he want to farm and how he can make profit, and that's how he kind of pick the crops that he want to grow.
Yes.
Okay. Does the farmer rotate crops?
Yeah, crop rotation. If you're an orchard, your orchard's in the ground anywhere from 15 to 30 years, and again, depending upon the crop that you planted. But in field and row crops, for example, here at the Chico State University, we try to teach most of the students that crop rotation is good, most likely or mostly from the side of resistance to certain weeds, pests. Rotating your crops is a really good way of biologically controlling pest management.
I have another type of question. Your job seems very hard, and it's not easy at all. So, does a farmer ever get a vacation?
Does the cow know how to feed themselves? Do the pigs know how to feed themselves? Farming, there is no vacation in farming if you are the farmer. People who work in agriculture, yes, they do get vacation time, because they are working for a company and there are laws and regulations. But typically, for example, farming, the farming industry, overtime isn't even considered until 10 hours. 10 hours is when overtime starts. whereas in the normal industry, 8 hours is overtime. So yes, there's a higher demand for farming, and we are in the fields longer. Plant and wheat at 5 in the morning, or spread and aqua at 11 at night. You have dates and requirements, mentally, physically, that you need to meet, and that's including fertilizing, getting the crop in the ground, to harvesting the crop, getting it out of the field. So yeah, there's a lot of work involved.
Oh, um, it sounds like it was. I thought it's very hard work. Finally, at what time of year are labor requirement most critical?
Harvest is usually the most critical. Planting, as I said, sometimes you're out there spreading fertilizer at 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes you're planting at 5 in the morning. If rain's coming, you want to rush to get your crop in. Sometimes you hire a crew to help you get work done, or you hire someone on with bigger equipment, who can disc your field and prep your beds, in 3 times, 4 times, the amount of time that you would normally take. But harvest is the number one labor requirement typically. You are usually trying to get your crop out of the field as fast as you can. You've usually grown your crop with a goal in mind, whether it's a certain percentage of sugar level in grapes, whether it's a certain percentage of protein in alfalfa, whether it's about to rain and your almonds are still on the tree and you need them on the ground and they need to dry and you need to get them to, that all is very labor intensive, and harvest is the number one labor intensive time of year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Claussen. I learned a lot from this interview. Thank you.